Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da.
Don't do too much, because otherwise we'll also have to pay for it.
I'll pay. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da. That is not what I needed with the state of my voice right now.
We're living together, and still we stand tall.
The final countdown wasn't just Bryan Danielson's
All right, JR.
entrance music. It was also the story going into this match. And the final countdown was actually the final countdown to the final countdown. Because Bryan Danielson won the AEW World title. He did not retire. And presumably, he will now have his final countdown of retirement title defenses.
I think we are now in the period of time. I said this yesterday. I think it's been working us all along. I don't think the kid ever asked him to retire. I think that was all just a big old storyline. And he's going to hold that title for a full calendar year.
I think Birdie's going to be his manager. I'm Ollie Davis. I'm joined by Luco and DAD. Welcome to the AEW All In 2024 WrestleTalk podcast review. If you haven't already, please press the thumbs up button. Give us a subscribe. Leave a comment down below with what you thought of this episode of pay-per-view and send in your Omega chats to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one of them over $5. And yes, don't worry, you haven't made a mistake. We are on the WrestleTalk main channel, just trying out something after the All-In predictions last Friday with Dave and, Meltzer and Alvarez. We know them as Dave and Brian.
Yeah.
And, of course, Max. MJF to everyone else. So we thought, yeah, let's try out a pay-per-view review over here.
Put on here. So if you don't know, we actually do podcast reviews all the time over on the WrestleTalk podcast channel. Do reviews of Raw and Dynamite, and there's predictions and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, so go check that out over there.
Yeah, we'll have the Raw review tomorrow.
Myself and Dan.
But this pay-per-view, we'll talk about the main event first, because the main event was the best thing in the whole evening. We've had so many conversations about, well, that's the best match of the year. Or if it's not the best in-ring match, it's like, well, that's the best moment of the year for stuff like Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. This might be for me, and take everything with, we're not even 24 hours removed from this, so...
We were also in the building.
We were there. We watched half of it back with the TV angles and the commentary, and I think it only made it better.
It did. I actually had to walk away from it because I could feel myself getting emotional again.
Yeah. So, yes, that we don't know how we're feeling in a couple of days or until like the next best match of the year happens. But right now, I feel like this is the perfect marriage of in-ring work and storytelling and emotion, high drama and psychology that I've seen so far this year.
We spoke to a lot of people after the show, not just like the five of us that went or the six of us that went. We were just chatting with people we bumped into, this and the other, and I was like, what did you make of that? And there was a thing that kept coming up, which was a lot of us weren't there for WrestleMania 30. And by that we mean we weren't in the building. We weren't in New Orleans. We weren't in Bourbon Street for WrestleMania 30. But it really did feel like in this moment, that was like what it must have been like to be at WrestleMania 30. But almost like on a big, grander scale. And oddly in a way where this time I know that the company likes the person they've just put the belt on.
Yeah, now we can get excited for title defenses as opposed to Kane.
So Bryan Danielson said in an interview this week, he said the first conversation I had with Vince after I won the title was, just so you know, Roman Reigns is the next guy.
Yeah, I read that, but, of course, WrestleMania 30, I think most people look back on it and realise that it's a bit of a rubbish show. So it's nice that Danielson got a better fitting big-time main event.
It's a reference to our Patreon show, WrestleTalk Extra. If you don't know, Ollie's big hot take is that he's come to realise that WrestleMania 30 is an okay show because you only like the opener and the close and you like nothing else on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think most people agree with it. So
I don't. I think it's one of the best WrestleManias ever.
Let's just go through the whole match. We can sort of interject with thoughts as we go. The entrances were sublime. Bryan Danielson got a video package beforehand, sort of as he's meditating in a field, and the camera goes into his eye, and it has all the... I think it was in reverse chronological order of like a Survival Series classic of his career. Obviously without WWE footage, but with everything else. And then it went from there back to the now again through his family. So Birdie and Bree and Buddy. All bees.
Yeah, I think that's by design.
Yeah. And Daniel. His name's Daniel Bryan. So they do that, and then Danielson comes out, and it's to the final countdown. It's the big pay-per-view entrance. Wembley, all 50,000 of us. I know there wasn't 82,000 like the previous year, but my God.
Didn't feel like it.
When the sun had set and we couldn't see the tarped off areas, it felt huge.
It didn't feel like there were 30,000 less people there. And like actually, a lot of us have talked about that, comparing this to last year's show. And I think we were all fairly comfortable that this was a better show than it was last year for Wembley. I think up and down the card, I thought I enjoyed this one more than I did the other one. Granted, that might be because I was not on my own in the media box this time round. But I actually almost enjoyed the atmosphere more for this time round.
Well, the highest highs for me were on this show.
Yeah.
But I think last year, I really liked last year.
I did too.
I got to see CM Punk's final match.
Ever.
He didn't do anything after that. So then Swerve comes out. Oh my God. There's been great entrances, there's been goofy entrances, and I usually love them all. This was the coolest entrance I've ever seen.
It's in a different kind of cool to what Danielson's was, because Danielson was like, "Oh, so cool," because it was so emotional.
It was cheesy.
And stuff. And it was
so cheesy.
I cried, tears streaming down my face for Danielson's entrance, the video package and the entrance itself. I couldn't help myself, and I just burst into tears. Not the only time. We'll come on to in a bit. And then when Swerve came out, it's a different level of cool. It's just he walked down. I was like, "That's a world champion right there." But that is a world champion.
The presentation with the rappers, I don't know who the rappers were, but they were rapping. That's cool. I know that rapping's cool. And the Who's House?
Swerve's house.
And they did it 8 times, I think. And every time it got
louder and louder.
And Swerve's just swagger and the way he held himself coming into the ring. And it felt like but my favorite things about boxing is the entrances. And then the boxing happens and it's boring. But the entrances... they feel historic, because boxing just feels like this old lineage sport, and I love it when wrestling does it, like the NWA first All In match I thought had it, and then sometimes in WWE they do it with the backstage follow through entrances.
And I thought AEW might do that more when people have and this is very much a Cody thing, have your team backing you up. That's one thing I really like about that original All In was Aldis comes out with his team in his corner. Yeah, and I think that's Swerve had such a superstar presence about him. I was like, you are the world champion of this company, and it's why a lot of people were, while we wanted to see Danielson win, wanted to see Swerve hold on to that gold, because he's been a really great world champion.
Yeah, he's been I can't fault Swerve. I can fault the booking.
That's exactly it.
But it really felt from the start, and it was a long night. This was 4 hours, probably 4.5 hours of wrestling that we had seen, pre-show and everything included, to get to this point. And the previous 2 matches, the previous but one match, sort of brought everyone down, and people were tired. But as soon as these entrances happened, everyone was massively alive.
It felt like once the Will MJF match had finished, everyone was just ready for the main event.
Because that was the end of what is a normal amount of human attention.
Yeah, everyone was just there. Okay, I'm ready for the main event now. So we'll talk about it when we get to it, but man, when people just left in their droves once the Will MJF match ended, and they did the angle afterwards.
They didn't leave. They went to the toilet.
Yeah, but you watched, it was like a swarm of people who decided I've seen the thing I wanted to come and see, and now I want to see the rest of the main event. And they kind of picked back up a little bit during the Jack Darby match, but it was mostly just for Sting coming out at the end.
So the actual match, Swerve was solidified as the heel pretty early on, because it was kind of a tweener atmosphere. Well, not tweener, but both guys. Everyone was into both guys. But because of the story they wanted to tell about Danielson and his family, they made Swerve the out-and-out heel. Prince Nana, who hasn't cheated for a while, got the ring bell, put it on the apron so Swerve could hit a Death Valley driver onto Bryan, onto the ring bell, on the apron. It's double hard behind the referee's back.
Yeah, it's kind of playing off the story they've been doing on television as well, which is just that, I want this. I want to end your career. I want to be the guy that beats Bryan Danielson and ends your career. And you do not realize, but I am the most dangerous man in this company. And you have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. So they've played up a lot of that in the match itself. So now, you've kind of, on TV, you can kind of play I'm just a cool heel. In this match, it felt more no, he's just gone back to the old Swerve. This is that babyface turn where he's I'm the world champion. That never happened.
Team AEW.
I'm Team AEW. No, it's I'm going to cut a promo on your child. Yeah. There was a moment, I can't remember what movie he was going to do. Oh, it was the Steppies. He got him up to do the Steppies. And then he realized, no. So he drags Danielson's carcass out of the ring in front of his children and then did the Steppies to him. While Nana is just dancing around him.
And by this point, because that's after the ring bell spot, Danielson had bladed. So he was just 3 minutes in, face covered in blood, the proper crimson mask. And it becomes a story about Danielson getting worked over really, really hard. For the majority of the match, he'll have the occasional hope spot, but it'd get cut off pretty quickly. And it's Danielson reaching out for his family in that corner. And then he gets hit by just big move after big move after big move. We got the vertebraker.
Yeah.
And the medics run in and they're checking on Danielson, and Swerve and Nana chuck them away. 3 house calls. I'm well, obviously this isn't the finish, but I don't know how we're going to get back from this.
I bought it. I really did think, I was that's the end.
I didn't, but it was a big dramatic moment. I didn't buy it. But when he hit the JML driver after that near fall, I was but what? No,
yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
This is, huh? And then there was this huge kick out from the JML driver. And this is when Swerve starts to do the no kicks. The Miz's famous no kicks. And he's kicking Danielson on his knees. And Danielson is just directly facing his kids and Bree, his wife, and in the corner.
Swerve is screaming at him, don't look at them, you look at me. Don't let them, me.
And Danielson keeps looking at his family, and he starts to hulk up, and he stands up, and he just screams as he's being kicked, I love you more than anything, or something.
I love you so much.
Yeah, and that was what triggered his comeback, and he starts getting him. And then he hits a running knee, and Swerve no-sells it.
Yeah. He just absorbs. So he hits the psycho knee, and Swerve just sort of backs into the corner and steps forward and just brushes it off. And Danielson's there just stunned. And a guy behind me just screamed, "He absorbed it!"
I've got to be honest. I was confused when it happened. I didn't quite understand what happened. I didn't hear this guy doing play-by-play. And I've watched it back afterwards. And I was okay. Yeah. I really like the idea. Something about it didn't work 100% for me, though.
I think it would have worked. I wonder if it would have worked better if it was more like an Ishii no-sell, where he just stands there tall and he just bounces off of him.
Yeah, I think you either stand there tall and the bounce off, because what happened, Psycho knee, Swerve goes back into the corner and then stands up and brushes himself. So you either don't move at all, or you go down and you pop right back up.
Yeah. That's a good no-sell.
One of the two extremes. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea. I just thought that execution was slightly off. But that is the only slight criticism I can have for this entire match.
It's almost like, in Punk Cena at Money in the Bank 2011, that is a 5-star match, but it's got
Cena.
But it's got a fair amount of bollocks ups. They botched several moves in that match.
Those are botches.
Yeah, I know. But my point is more it's still a 5-star match. Yeah. Sure, you could point to that and be he did drop him there. They did mistime that. You can hear Cena even calling spots so loudly, he's louder than the Chicago crowd. But it's still a 5-star match. I think that's the same thing with this here. It's maybe that moment wasn't perfect in execution, but it's still a perfect match.
After that, Bryan, he's shocked, and Swerve seems to have him beat, but Hangman Page appears in the corner of the screen, and there's security fighting him off, and he shoves Prince Nana to the ground, and that's just enough of a distraction. Hangman never actually interferes in the match, just enough of a distraction, and Swerve sort of follows him around the ring, saying, "Get out of here! I'm the champion." Turns around, into a knee, near fall. They go back and forth, trade a few more moves, another knee, and then the label lock. Swerve gets out of the label lock, kind of, but Danielson snaps the fingers. He is sick, and then he locks in a more extreme version, almost a Rings of Saturn.
Yeah.
And Swerve taps.
It was absolutely incredible. And like this whole... When the yes chants were going off, the sound, the reverb around Wembley Stadium just sort of like hit back at it. It was like this huge echo. It was so incredible. And then when the finish happened, like we just lost our minds. Like we're jumping up and down. Like everyone where we were was going banana for this. And it was just like everyone was crying and everyone was singing. Everyone was singing the final countdown. Everyone was cheering and hugging each other. And then Danielson gets his family in the ring. The Blackpool Combat Club come down, minus Jon Moxley, but Pac's there instead.
Moxley was never in the Blackpool Combat Club. It was always Pac.
And we were joking afterwards. I was like, I'm amazed that no one has yet force ghosted Jon Moxley into the picture of all of them standing there with their titles. It's like, yeah, no, it was always Hayden Christensen, wasn't it, at the end of Return of the Jedi? Yeah, I always remember that. But it was just an incredibly emotional moment. Pure magic. Like, that is the word I would use to describe this match and this moment and this pay-per-view was magical. Like, that's the only word I could think of every time I left it. I was like, that was magic. And I really felt like it made me feel something. And I walked out, I was like, that was just so epic. And I haven't thought of much since then, just that, the wonderfulness of all that was, the magicalness of all of that.
I've never been a part of anything like it.
No.
And I've always wanted to, you said at the start, the WrestleMania 30 or I would even extend it to the original All In or ECW One Night Stand. Like, those things were like, oh man, that seemed like history.
Yeah.
And I wish I was there. And while last year was historic because it was like, it's a big show. It was like more, it's big for AEW.
It was also the biggest show in the UK, so it wasn't just big for AEW, it was big for wrestling.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not undermining it at all. I'm just saying there's something different to going, this company, which is hard to actually personify, hard to relate to, has done an achievement, well done, to I'm super invested in this person's story and entire life. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes the real history of like sport or I guess movies and stuff. Like
they always sell those t-shirts of I was there. Like last year there was a lot of I was there t-shirts. And sure, like I was there. But I don't feel like if anyone asks me, is like, oh, what was the show? It's like, this would be the one I point to. I was like, no, I was there for that. I was there to see Bryan Danielson beat Swerve Strickland for the AEW World Championship. And it was one of the best things I've ever seen. And like in a weekend where we've seen amazing wrestling up and down the shows, like Riot Cabaret on Friday, and then on Saturday at the Rev Pro show, seeing Zack Sabre Jr. versus Hechicero and Michael Oku and Luke Jacobs. It's like two of the... I was like, these are two of the best wrestling matches I've ever seen live. Yeah. And then we come to here and this is another one. I'm like, that's another one. That's like the greatest wrestling match I've ever seen live. It was so awesome.
What was so unique about it? And I always remember talking to a wrestler and he was describing the differences between working, over here in Britain, it's always just been, in small areas like Church Halls to York Hall, or maybe it's an arena. And that was like the cap, really.
Do you remember when Progress ran SSE? And it was like, whoa, Progress are running SSE.
Yeah, and that's an arena.
It was a huge thing.
3,000-4,000 people. No, a fraction of the size of what we went to last night. And he described how it's a totally different performance because in York Hall or somewhere, you can play to people. You can see everyone in there if you pick someone out. Can't do that in a stadium.
No.
And it's like the stadium takes on a personality of itself. So everyone becomes one. And I thought, well, that's not been my experience at the one stadium show I went to. People chant different things.
It's hard to kind of like get... We're so used to, you hear a chant on that side of the building, you then join it on your side of the building, then all of a sudden everyone is doing it. That's hard to do in a stadium show because there's pockets over here, there's pockets over here. That's why like last year there was like 20 different people who claimed they started TNA chants.
Yeah. But then for what Bryan is so good at, and you can see it at WrestleMania 30 or at all of his major points throughout his career, is he can have a connection with everyone at the same time in quite an unparalleled way in wrestling. I guess Shawn Michaels can do it, to play on the biggest possible stage and still make it feel like it is a one-on-one relationship with everyone in the stands.
Yeah.
Everyone's singing from the same hymn sheet, literally, because it's the yes. It's this mantra to help him win the match. So yeah, it's not the best match I've seen live ever, I've decided, but it's up there, and for emotion, it is the best match I've ever seen live.
That's where I'm at. I think emotionally, 100% it is, and that just ebbs out Oku and Ospreay from earlier this year. But like Oku Ospreay, I think was one of the best matches I've ever. I think it is the greatest match I've ever seen in human form. Oh no, I have to watch that. I need to sleep on that. I need to have a little bit more time between me and Zach and Hechicero before I can make that decision. But I think emotionally, this is one of the greatest things I've been so fortunate to be a part of. And it was so tremendous. And yeah, it capped off what I thought was a really, really good show. That I was struggling a little bit with at the start because I was so tired from we'd done, there was our third show in 3 days. I was so tired. I've been sleeping on my brother's futon for the last 3 days, so I've not been sleeping very well. And I sat down and I was like, there's a point where I was like, I don't think I like watching wrestling at stadiums.
Yeah.
It's too big. I don't like it. I actually like going to York Hall. I like going to arenas. I don't like being in stadiums. It's too big. Until the main event. And then I was like, this is why doesn't everyone do this? Why doesn't everyone do everything in stadiums? This is the best thing ever.
I haven't got access because I'm just on my phone.
Oh, yes. Great. I'll do the UltraChats then. If you do want to get your thoughts read out on the air, WrestleTalk.com/support is the link to click. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Please press the subscribe button as well if you haven't already, and leave a comment down below. Samad Ali kicks us off here to say, hello gents, hope you had a blast at All In. This might be my favourite wrestling show this year so far. The main event was pure magic. But the sicko in me kind of wanted to see Christian win the title in the end, so he can be the new father to Birdie.
Well, that is definitely coming up. That was one of the first notes I made. Oh, Christian's going to go for Birdie, isn't he? Your daddy wants to come home.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not this daddy.
There's a lot of people have been joking about. It's like, oh, Danielson's dad's passed away. Charles Berg said, I believe Bryan Danielson is the greatest wrestler of all time. What I think makes him so great is that he's not only smooth, but he makes every single move feel like it's a struggle. It's like Benoit. A Danielson match feels real and gritty. He is the GOAT.
I'm just amazed by where we were. We weren't right at the back, but we were very far away, and we didn't have a screen. It was so annoying.
Yeah.
We couldn't see anything that happened on the mat, and weirdly the screen was behind us, so we had to turn around. But even with all that, I knew when Danielson was going, that sort of thing he does. And everyone at the same time just got swept up in it.
It was absolutely, and it is making things feel real. We've got an episode of TLC coming out soon about best talkers, and my favorite talkers, my favorite people who do promos, the ones who feels real to them. It's not just been a script that's handed to someone. It feels real from the heart. It's what Danielson is in the ring. It feels like it's real to him. Noshua here said, hi guys, did I cry watching Danielson win the belt? Yes. All In 2024 for me surpassed last year's event, and I was so fortunate to be able to see the main event in person. A Casino Gauntlet at Forbidden Door next year would be insane. Jam that jam.
As much as I would love to see another Casino Gauntlet, I think they've got to limit it to one a year now. Make it their Royal Rumble and always make it at All In, because the show's called All In.
Yeah.
And you're getting everyone in.
I actually 100% agree with you, because they've done 3 this year. I think you wanted to limit this to one a year. Yes, I mean, I don't know about you. I cried during the entrances and the video package. When Birdie cried, because when Swerve did the stomps in front of Danielson's kids, they then showed a clip of her crying. It was like Beyond the Mat. Yes. It was like Royal Rumble 1999. We heard SB3 was actually quite close by them. It was like she was inconsolable for a good 10 minutes.
Apparently, Buddy the son, though, was laughing his head off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's Danielson's son.
He's Danielson's son. Okay. Did you see that Danielson tried to hit the Tiger Driver on him?
No.
Stop that. Devon here said, the main event was beautiful. Very rarely can you get me to buy into a match so much that I'm pacing back and forth and yelling. By the end sequence, I was crying. So happy that Bryan finally did it. I love AEW. I love pro wrestling. Love you guys. Ajaz here said, hey guys, hope you're both well. My first show after a few months. I've joined the Luke Owen DAD club, so I've been on parenting duties. Congratulations. I was at All In yesterday and it was amazing. I watched it back this morning to see the TV angles. Bryan Danielson got me emotional. Me too, because I also then cried when he won. Veronica said, we're so lucky to be alive when Danielson is wrestling. Yeah, he's one of those guys that, like, 20 years from now, people are like, oh, man, yeah, we used to watch Bryan Danielson do this and hear the things he would do. The way that, like, when Meltzer was here on Friday, the way he would talk about watching Terry Funk in the 70s. Kuzu here said, I know recency bias is a factor here and the year isn't over, but Danielson is top runner for Wrestler of the Year, right? I don't see how he isn't.
So what? He's also had the Ospreay match, which was my favourite match of the year going into this.
And Zach. And Okada as well.
Oh my God. Yeah, it'll be between him and Ospreay.
The roller coaster here said, hey guys, can someone answer that phone please? Because I freaking called it. Danielson always lies. Champion for 500 days. What a match. I saw the Hangman interference as a karma comes for us all moment. Swerve and Hangman are going to kill it. Have a great day. Yeah, this does set up nicely. You can do Swerve and Hangman, maybe like a lights out match for All Out in 2 weeks time. And then Danielson can face, I don't know, maybe Christian, I suppose.
I really want to see when they get Ospreay Danielson rematch because Ospreay's got to win over him.
That's true, yeah. Will said, hey guys, the main event was positively incredible. The emotional beats and in-ring action told a phenomenal story. Bryan is one of my favorites ever, and this just cemented it. Swerve was incredible too. His aura as champ was otherworldly. That is actually the thing, before we move on to talking about the rest of the show, I've got to put over Swerve here as well. Because a lot of the talk will be about Danielson and the magic of Danielson and like how brilliant he is at all of these things. He is the greatest of all time to ever do this. But it takes two to tango. And Swerve was a great dance partner on this night. Not just from that entrance, but throughout the night. He was the perfect foil for this, the culmination of this storyline for Bryan Danielson. He was perfect for it.
Yeah, his heel mannerisms were so... I was watching him on the TV feed doing the really slow yes chants just before Hangman Page, I think, sort of distracts him. And I was like, how are you going so slow? Like he's going so slow when everyone in the everyone in the stadium is going yes, but he's doing this to bring them down.
Yeah,
I thought the composure and confidence to be able to stand there and still not go fast. It's true professional.
To like H core, boo, like erupting from the audience. That was amazing.
Well, keep on getting your Omega chats to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one over $5. Let's get into the rest of the show. Like the pre-show. Okay, so I'm gonna be real here. I wasn't having the best time until the Casino Gauntlet.
I think that's
2 and a bit hours.
I think that is okay. That's your own personal thing. I was not into the pre-show whatsoever, with the exception of Stokely and Ishii. And Leo Rush running into Satnam Singh. The ladder match got me. Like that was because it was during those 3 matches when I was having my thing of like, I don't think I like watching stadium wrestling. Maybe this just isn't my cup of tea. But then the ladder match really got me into it, and then I loved Storm and Mariah May. And then it was Hook and Jericho.
Yeah.
And then it was the tag match. And then when they said, and then you turned to me, I think during the tag match, you said, I think the Gauntlet's going to be next. And I was like, this show needs the Gauntlet now. Because I was kind of down during the tag match and I was down during the Hook Jericho match.
I will put over one of the reasons being the lack of the screen. So last year, they had 3 big screens on each side of the rigging. So everyone could see, no matter how far back you were, what was going on, at least on the camera angles. For whatever reason this year, they only had 2. And it wasn't on the main side of the ring. So the majority of people could not see a screen, which is really, really difficult when you're in a stadium setting. You can't see what's going on in the ring, the facials, little clues, anything on the mat, anything outside the ring. I was just like, okay, don't know what's going on now.
It was so weird to watch so many people with the ring that way do this and turn away from the ring. And actually, you pointed out to me earlier, it was like, there's no screen here. And I was like, well, we don't need a screen. The ring's right there. And I was watching so many people look, and I was like, TikTok generation, man. It's ruined everyone's attention span. The ring's right there. Just look at that. But actually, the more detailed matches got, the more I was like, oh, man, you actually really do need this screen. I think, and this is, I don't know anything. I have no connections. I've got no sources. I think they only had 2 screens. I think they only had 2 screens. It was not a choice by design to only have 2 screens. I think they just brought 2.
If you're going to do that, move one of those screens to our side, because one of the sides that had the screen was massively tarped off.
True, but then it looks stylistically weird. Then it looks like you've forgotten one.
Yeah.
Well, so either maybe it didn't work, but my bet, considering it's AEW, they only brought 2. I was like going through the bags. Oh no! Oh, did we leave one of the screens at home? I'm sure it'll be fine.
It really genuinely sort of not ruined, but it really lessened my experience of anything that wasn't great.
Yeah.
So the Gauntlet, MJF Ospreay, the main event, it was so good that I overcame not being able to see everything that was going on. But yeah, the rest of the show, it was not a very suboptimal viewing experience live.
A guilty hat said that I was sat in the same area. I've got major neck ache today from turning around to the match. I was wondering why my neck was so sore.
Right, so this pre-show opened with a 16-man tag. I realised who I forgot.
Who was it?
Action Andrade.
Oh!
I only put down
I didn't even know he was in the match.
I only put down Darius Martin and Dante Martin.
And that's because
Top Flight.
Yeah, you asked me who's in the match. I said I was Top Flight. And I did not even consider that Action Andretti was going to be part of that.
Yeah, so this was another factor. Without the screen, if there's a big multi-man match, don't always know who's wrestling in the ring.
You see as well, because there's 8 lads, standing on either corner and stuff, who are blocking the view of seeing what's in the ring.
So thank God for Satnam Singh, who is the tallest human being. They had a nice spot with Leo Rush, but this was mostly just spots, just to get people on the card.
Just to warm the crowd up.
I didn't care about it.
You're not supposed to.
The side with more British people won.
Yes, which is the right call.
So Anthony Ogogo lost, but Kip Sabian and...
He was on the British side.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was. Was he not?
No. Anthony Ogogo was with the heels, Billington and Kip Sabian were on the other side.
Anthony Ogogo, I think, was teaming with Billington.
These are my notes. You can look it up on Wikipedia.
I'm almost certain, I will do in a second, I'm almost certain because we made the joke of just like, this feels like that the second team that came out, because it was also Rocky Romero and there was someone else as well. And I was like, oh, these are all the people that used to get booked in British Indies before they signed with AEW.
Double check.
I'll double check.
Because it was a lot of names for me to write down. Because that one was not announced going in, I don't think.
And also, we were then puzzled, like, how come you've only got 7 names down?
Yeah.
There's 16 guys here. I can't work out who the 8th man is.
After that was Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway versus Willow Nightingale and Tomohiro Ishii. Fun match.
Yeah.
Willow and Chris did the majority of the work at the start, but then Hathaway and Ishii are tagged in.
Bloody hell, you were right. Yeah, Kip Sabian, Rocky Romero, Carl Fletcher, Leo Rush, Action Andretti, and Top Flight against Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh, Anthony Ogogo, Ira Davari, Private Party, and the Dark Order. I stand corrected.
Stokely and Ishii go at it, and Stokely's not getting anywhere with it. And then Chris Statlander comes in and gives a few forearms to Ishii. And Ishii does his excellent selling where he just staggers back. And then Chris whips Ishii into Stokely. So Stokely's like, the man's down. Spinebuster on Ishii. Ishii just bounces right back up.
Yeah.
Behind Stokely on the camera shot. Fun moment.
He's amazing, is that Tomohiro Ishii. He took a lot of unwarranted flack on social media a couple of weeks back because he had a very good match with Swerve Strickland. And I guess that's just what happens now when you have good matches and are a good wrestler. But, man, I watched him have an awesome match at Rev Pro. And then I saw him be awesome on here. And I'm like, I think he's one of the best wrestlers I've ever seen live.
Martha Hart came out and we booed her. That's the widow of Owen Hart.
No. We didn't boo her.
We booed her.
No, we didn't boo her. We booed Canada.
So, well, to be fair, she was cutting a heel promo.
It was a weird way to phrase it because she was like, I'm from Canada. And everyone went boo. And then she went, which is very good friends with the US.
Have you been watching the MJF Ospreay feud?
That's what I thought. I was like, we booed her even more. And then she was like, and we're part of the British Commonwealth. And we went, way!
Yeah, like
T.
We don't think about the Commonwealth as much as Commonwealth countries think about the Commonwealth.
If anything, we just use it as a joke on this podcast.
She wished the Owen Hart Cup winners luck for their matches later on. I like that the Owen Hart Cup winners get the match on the show. I actually forgot about it until Martha brought that up. Then they announced Forbidden Door London, undisclosed location in London, is happening next year. this is kind of broken before because there've been a few adverts that people had seen, but crucially, it's on the same weekend.
Yeah,
which I think is a fantastic idea. Make it a tradition.
Yeah, that's the thing. They hadn't been sort of leaked. I think they were just putting up tests for, like, you know, to put it up that it was going to be happening, and it just so happened that there was a wrestling fan there who took a photo of it. Because people who I know who live in the area have said they haven't seen it at all since it happened there. So it clearly was a mistake that it went up, and then we meant to announce it here at All In. But yeah, I think it is very telling that they haven't announced where in London it is, which makes me think that they haven't booked anywhere yet.
Then we had the final match of the pre-show, which was Dustin Rhodes and Friends and Shibata versus the Undisputed Kingdom and Cage of Agony.
Oh, yeah. I was about to say Shibata's also one of his tag partners, but he's not.
You're going to say Shibata was on the other team?
I was going to say, I thought Shibata might have been one of the ROH six-man tag champs, but that's the Von Erichs.
Yeah. So this was just stuff, and Sammy Guevara was actually very good.
Annoyingly.
Yeah, annoyingly good.
Although, have a word with yourselves, lads, because Brian Cage, of course, came out dressed as Wolverine, and Sammy Guevara came out dressed as Wolverine. Have a chat, lads. Like, have a conversation about what cosplay you're doing, because you look like twats now. And also, Sammy, did you not think that Brian Cage was going to do a Wolverine cosplay? That's his gimmick.
Yeah, expect Sammy to be suspended soon for getting in a backstage altercation with Brian Cage. Dustin, this was pretty much the Dustin Rhodes show, and got a few big near falls. Shame he was in this rather than the Battle Royal. Sorry, not Battle Royal, Casino Gauntlet, but is what it is. And the faces won. The heels jumped them afterwards in defeat. So Kevin Von Erich got in the ring and led everyone in the claw.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm going to get you with the claw. Ooh, the claw's coming to get you. Ooh, the claw.
I've written, it was at this point we noticed the haunted carriage on the stage.
Yeah, so usually if you go to a London pay-per-view, there's usually a black cab, a red phone box, you know, someone dressed up as a royal guard or a beefeater, some might say. But there wasn't. There was just a carriage that was there, and it looked like it was old and haunted. And like Dan did a big zoom in with his camera and was like, I have no idea what this is, and why is there just one of them?
Yeah.
We later found out it was for Mercedes' entrance.
Final segment on the 0 hour. Saraya and Harley Cameron came out with an assortment, an entourage of British wrestlers. We saw Lizzie Evo, Rio. Not Japanese Rio, different Rio.
And Mercedes Blaze was in the ring as well.
Cameron Kai.
Yeah.
So that was cool. See, sorry if we're missing any names there. And yeah, Saraya was just cutting a promo on how I'm English. I'm the best English wrestler. I was like, son of a bitch. She's setting up a Jamie Hayter return that I said 100% isn't going to happen to you.
Yeah.
You've been pushing it.
I've been saying for weeks now, man. Saraya comes out. I was on this show last year. I'm not on the show this year. I won the world title here last year. You show me some respect. I'm the best this country has. Hayter comes out, beats her up a little bit. I thought it was going to be a squash match. In the end, they just did an angle. And then, yeah, it was there for the pop. And it was great.
So, yeah, great that Hayter's back. It was a nice surprise. You could see it coming, though, as soon as Saraya started cutting the promo. Not saying that was bad, though. What I am saying is bad as it was on the pre-show.
Strong disagree.
We'll have to disagree on that. I do think having a big return here on the pre-show does undermine it. Sort of look at everyone else on the pre-show. It puts you in that group of people. So just let me finish. Mm-hmm. And also, everyone's just going to be like, well, why aren't you with Britt Baker? Britt Baker was your team.
That's true.
So you've gone from AEW Women's World Champion or friends with the person who's always fighting for the AEW Women's World Championship to Saraya, who was the pre-show?
Who was the former Women's World Champion?
Come on, yeah, on paper. But how has she booked? How's she been booked for the last year?
Well, at least she has been on TV. But to your point, yes, she is not a top star. This was less to be like a wow, what a big program we're going to go into now. Although I'm sure they will do a match. This was more for the pop. The reason why I think it's smart to do this on the pre-show is we have heard from people that last year's All In did crazy good late buy rate numbers because of the angles they did on the pre-show, specifically Max and Adam Cole winning the ROH tag titles, that create a load of last minute buys for All In. And the whole point of a pre-show is to make people buy the pay-per-view. So if you do a huge return like Jamie Hayter, you're like, well, what's going to happen on the pay-per-view then? If this is the level of star power we're getting as a return on the pre-show for free, I better buy the pay-per-view to see what happens next.
I interpreted those late buys differently. I think the angles that have worked best are the ones that directly set up angles for later in the show.
True.
So Adam Cole and MJF winning the tag team champions, and they're fighting in the main event for the world title.
Absolutely true, yeah.
What?
Uh-huh.
MJF getting injured in the pre-show match, and he's got to fight in the main event. What? That's the stuff that works. Night-long narratives, not here is a return.
But in theory,
if she came out and said,
I'll see you later.
I'll see you later. And that's it. You're like, oh my God, is she going to turn on Britt? Is she going to help her win?
Well, based on what Sean had said on previous Fightful shows, whereas apparently Jamie and Britt are not very friends anymore. So I just assumed that she was not going to get involved in that. That was when Sean said that, I was like, okay, she'll be doing an angle with Saraya then. I think it's still a bit of smart bit of business, because I wonder, I'll be interested to see if this has added late pay-per-view buys, because that's clearly what it's there to do, is to push late pay-per-view buys.
Does make me concerned about I'm not saying that, compared to last year, this is a much better place for the locker room to be in. But obviously the stuff with Britt recently, and now Jamie Hayter's not good. Does it seem like her not returning in a Britt Baker segment and returning the way she did makes me like, oh yeah. So
were they linked?
Why have they fallen out?
But they weren't even linked when she was the champion. They'd already split that team off anyway.
Yeah, but it was building. They never split it up.
I know they never split, but she wasn't
right?
with. They weren't together when she got injured. She'd already split away from her, because we were there at the time, being like, why did they not do the angle? They clearly just split them up.
But they were always friends, and I mean, we disagree on this, but yeah, and the way Baker lost later. We'll get onto it. It was yeah. The main card opened with the Patriarchy defending their trios titles against Bang Bang Gang, House of Black, and the Blackpool Compact Club.
Very good.
John Moxley is now Pac. This worked better, though.
Yeah.
Because Pac and Claudio and Yuta all got to stand with Danielson at the end of the show.
Yeah.
All with belts.
And it was really nice as well. A lot of people have been sharing images. Pac's smiling in a lot of these photos as well. He was smiling in the ring. That if someone caught a video of him hugging a little buddy, and it was like, this is the happiest I've ever seen Pac.
You're no bastard. So this was the entrances. This was good. The entrances were on the pre-show.
Absolutely.
So I think if there's late buys, it'll be because of these entrances, not the Jamie Hayter return.
And if there are late buys, you'll just say it was because of the entrances.
So it means when the main card started, we got to get right into the action for this. It was a London ladders match. Don't know what that means. They were American
It was
ladders.
in London.
Mm-hmm.
You know how sometimes they just do, it's a Minnesota street fight. Mm-hmm. It just so happens it's in Minnesota.
But then they'd have some weapons that are sort of Minnesota themed.
Oftentimes not. They've just been named something.
This is where I realised we'd been here for an hour and we've seen 42 wrestlers compete. I
turned to Ollie and I was like, crikey, we've seen a lot of wrestlers already in this first hour, haven't we? It's good value for money, this.
Or bloated. I don't know. I was like, will this be the highest amount of wrestlers ever on a wrestling card? Not even close. I was doing the numbers this morning.
Yeah.
Like 2019 Royal Rumble or something. 2 Rumble matches.
Yeah.
So this year's Royal Rumble had 6 fewer competitors overall.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't have a pre-show, etc. 2019 Royal Rumble had the 2 Rumble matches and like the 4-way for the Romans belt, I think. And there was so many, like a pre-show match as well.
Mm-hmm.
There was like, I stopped counting at 85 and there were a few matches left. But this was good. Lots of dives outside early. The story was Christian leaves the match, hoping that Killswitch and Nick Wayne can do most of the work, when they seem to have it won, and they're constantly saving Shayna Wayne from being attacked by others. But Shayna is the other champion.
She goes, yeah.
Christian comes down when everything seems better to take advantage of. He stops Killswitch from climbing the ladder. Says, "Let me do it." Christian climbs the ladder. That means they don't win. His ego got the better of him. and Pac was able to run up instead and unhook the belts.
Yeah, I thought it was a very fun ladder match. It's cool to see it live. I don't think I'll be rushing back to rewatch it, but I had fun watching it at the time.
There was a really cool Canadian Destroyer off the apron through a table from Nick Wayne.
Yep, I don't want to hear anyone say that move is rubbish or overused. Do it in every match.
Twice on this card.
Yeah, and that's actually too few.
Yeah, but the ones in the ring now, boring. On the apron, off the top turnbuckle.
Oh yeah, do it off the stage. I just do it more.
Brody King was also very over in this.
Yeah, like he always is. It felt like he was the star of the match. He was genuinely always in every single spot, like the big spots. He was always there for it.
Me personally, my MVPs were the Bang Bang Gang. I thought Juice Robinson was excellent.
Yep.
Seeing him in a stadium environment, he's one of those larger-than-life personalities. And man, the Guns probably did my favourite spots here.
Yeah, they were very good.
Brawling with Shayna Wayne and Juice also had a Shayna interaction where he blocked the hairspray with the chair.
Yeah.
But yeah, Killswitch. Christian is berating Killswitch afterwards.
And Killswitch walks away, which sets us up for a big non-turn later.
Toni Storm then took on Mariah May. Toni Storm's entrance live was excellent.
Yeah.
Like seeing the black and white graphics over the entire screen and the music, which does sound like it's coming out of a gramophone. Yeah, that was awesome. And she also got a little clip at the start of a wall with some photos on, and it zooms in on one photo and it says Toni Storm, Wembley Stadium, 1924 or something.
So good. I loved this match. I've loved this feud leading into it. The final angle notwithstanding. Not that it was a bad angle, just not a great angle. It was just an angle. But I've loved this feud. I've loved this build. I've loved this story. And I loved this match. I thought that these two worked so well together. It was like watching it feels like this is the start of their match series now. So it wasn't like they did absolutely everything within this match, but still they had color within this match, which can set up a bigger a blood feud later down the line. Mariah May slapped her own mother in the face. Dr. Luther was superb in giving her the middle finger. Because Luther made his return here. I think that's in all the returns and stuff. Everyone's ignoring Luther made his return. It's an important character.
That's the thumbnail for my WrestleTalk News. All-time wrestling return.
It's Luther.
I'm not usually into Luther, but I thought he did a great job. He's taken out early with a dropkick from Mariah May, and you don't see him for the rest of the match until May goes to get the title in the corner to use as a weapon. But this gloved white hand comes out from underneath the canvas, stops her from doing it, and then gives her the middle finger. It was really good.
I thought it was a great match. Really, really liked this.
It was Toni Storm who gave Mariah May the colour when she hit a Storm Zero on the steel steps.
Yeah.
Which is a nice bit of revenge because it was May who had made Toni bleed. And really emotional match, sort of in high intensity. And Toni Storm couldn't bring herself to use the blooded heel weapon on Mariah May. And she was going to win it fairly instead. Goes for the Storm Zero, but May gets out and hits 2 knees for the win.
I think that's my only thing, my criticism I would level against the match. And it's less on them and the match itself and more like, we just did this with Callis handing Carl Fletcher the screwdriver. And we're sort of doing it with Will not being able to do the Tiger Driver. That's 3 beats that are basically the same within 3 different matches.
Also, I do think Toni Storm's probably... I thought she was at a place where she could attack May.
100%.
I guess as a character, you don't know until you're in that moment and making them bleed, because May hasn't bled. But yeah, I'm like you. I think this is a good first match in a series.
Yeah, I also don't think you needed this finish, personally. I think you could have just had May hit the Storm Zero and get the win. I don't think you needed the shoe.
But yeah, May is the new AEW Women's World Champion, and she was at the press conference afterwards wearing a veil and gave Toni Storm's career a eulogy, which was a nice little bit. Chris Jericho then came out, played by my Farsi band.
Well, I believe that's what happened. I didn't see this because during that Mariah May Toni Storm match, you spotted they were setting up a drum kit on the stage, and you were like, that means Jericho Hook's next. I was like, great. Well, now I know that once this is finished, I can go take a piss. Like that's going to be my piss break.
I'm getting a pint.
And I'm going to, and maybe I'll go get some food as well. I'll do whatever I can to not have to hear this. I think I've said this on the show before. When Jericho changed his music from Judas to this new one, since he's become the Learning Tree, I thought that was part of the joke, that he took away a song that people liked and replaced it with generic butt rock. I thought that was part of the gag. Turns out it's a Fozzy song, and it's his new Fozzy song. And they're a dreadful band, and he is an awful singer. And I should know, because I've been in awful bands and I'm an awful singer, so it takes one to know one. But this was, the queue for the toilets was hysterically long. When Fozzy came out to play, it was hilarious how long it took me to get into the toilets.
I actually want to applaud Chris Jericho because in 2024, it is the men's match after the women's match that was a toilet break. That is progress.
That's progress right there.
Chris Jericho took on Hook for the FTW Championship. It was mostly a 3-on-1 match because FTW rules, the Learning Tree are out there. So Big Bill, who's just so hilariously over.
But you decided that he's ironically over now.
Yeah. And Brian Keith, just having a handicap match. I was a bit confused as to why Shibata wouldn't come out because he was on the show earlier.
Well, Joe's not there.
But Shibata has made the save in the past.
Yeah, but he was busy. He was partying with Dustin Rhodes, wasn't he? You know? I don't know, man.
I don't know either.
Well, it's for the Taz spot is why I guess. I have little to say about this match.
But there's 3 of them.
Yeah.
So Shibata can brawl with Big Bill.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the finish of the match. Big Bill's pushed off the apron through a barbed wire table, which was, well done, Big Bill. And Hook gets the red rum in on Jericho, so he's got that there. And then Brian Keith gets on the apron. Oh no, Brian Keith is going to stop the submission when Taz gets him and gets the Taz mission in as well.
Yeah, it was so good.
But wouldn't it make more poetic sense for Shibata to be down there with Hook? He takes out Big Bill, and Taz is playing the Samoa Joe role.
Perhaps
3-on-3.
But also now Hook's beaten them 3-on-2, so it puts Hook over more.
Yeah, I guess so.
Look,
Hook got the FTW title.
The funny thing is there's 2 points here. Number one, during the post-show press conference, someone told Tony Khan or asked Tony Khan about the FTW title being a joke, or sort of like, not like they didn't mean it in a mean way. They just sort of said it was introduced as a joke. And then Tony had to defend it. It was like, it is not. It is something we do take seriously. This is a belt with a lot of history and a lot of it is. It is an historic belt if you're a fan of 1990s wrestling. 1990s ECW.
AEW.
Yeah, absolutely. So he was like, it is an important belt. But Taz has put out on Twitter that he's had a conversation and it looks like they are going to retire the belts, which I think is for the best.
It's a crutch. It's like, we don't want to put Hook in a proper program because we don't want to beat him, but we don't want to beat anyone else. So, FTW title? Look where he was in January. He was legit on the cusp of not being a main eventer, but definitely a solid mid-carder in the company where you can interact with, sorry, Tony, real titles in the company.
Yeah.
Go for the International Championship. Go for the Continental Championship. Go for the TNT Championship.
I agree.
Which has become the sort of Super Juniors division with Darby Allin and Jack Pery.
And also you can play off last year because Hook beat Jack for the FTW title last year. Now, I mean, that's more my thing. It's just like this time last year we watched someone beat Hook for the FTW title, then Hook wins it back at All In. And I've just watched him do the exact same thing here, which means he's not moved.
Well, he did move. That's what's so frustrating. He fought for the AEW World title in one of the highest rated Dynamites of the year back in January, and he took a massive step backwards and accidentally stepped into a big pile of Jericho vortex.
I know, bud. I'm with you. And look, if they could drop the title, I think that is the best thing for everyone, and I think it is time we actually do this proper thing for Hook. What I don't want to happen now is for the company to think that this Big Bill thing is real. So what happened in Cardiff, and I think that Americans haven't quite figured this out yet. What happened in Cardiff was, it was a 4-hour wrestling taping, and in the middle, at 3.5 hours, the crowd had got tired and weren't making noises. And when wrestling fans in Britain get to that point, do you know what we do? We just make our own fun. So we just entertained ourselves. And in that moment, we just went, we're just gonna chat for Big Bill. And when someone thinks that's funny, they start doing it. And another person thinks that's funny, so they start doing it, and so on and so on and so on. And all of a sudden, Big Bill feels like he's the most over star. And that carried over into All In. What I don't want is this American company to think, Big Bill. Because do you know what will happen next year? He'll be in a tag title program winning the tag belts again, like from some team, because that's what happened with the Acclaimed last year.
Well, hopefully Big Bill's overness does follow him back over the Atlantic. The next match, speaking of, was the Young Bucks, who came out in full Sgt. Pepper attire. I thought they looked awesome.
Yeah.
FTR, who always look awesome. And then the Acclaimed, who got a karaoke old Sesame Daddy big screen thing for their entrance. And then he did a rap, which he hasn't done for a while, Max Caster. He said FTR looked like EDL, which is the English Defence League, which is sort of a racist organisation in the UK. And the Bucks touch each other's penises.
Yeah, this felt like a throwback to last year because the Acclaimed haven't been doing the raps on TV and haven't really been doing the Sesame Daddy thing. But this was, again, this company being like, oh, well, the Acclaimed were so over at All In last year. They'll definitely be so over in All In 2024. Dan Layton turned to me and said, they won't be as over. Because last year was just like, it was a time when they were over. It won't transfer. And I was like, well, that's the risk that they've taken. And that's why the Acclaimed have been put in this position, is because they were over at All In last year. So over at All In last year. So surely they will be again. And props to AEW, because they were over again. Like, they were more over here than they have been in, probably since this time last year.
I think they're a live overact. People like the entrance. People like cheering Daddy ass.
But not to...
Not Tempest. But,
but not to this degree.
No.
Like, this made them feel like... You remember when they had that all-out reaction?
Oh, that was another level.
But that's it. But that's what I'm saying. This is what these sort of reactions feel like. But I'm kind of ready for the Acclaim to move on from the tag belts. Though there was a very, very funny moment. So yeah, you mentioned Tempest. Tempest is there booing Billy Gunn very loudly. He does not like Billy Gunn. And there was a guy in front of him who seemed quite annoyed by this and said, so loud enough so Tempest could hear him, well, the problem with the Young Bucks is they've never sold a ticket. And I'm like, mate, you're at an event that is named after an event that the Young Bucks literally sold tickets for.
It's very... very uneducated.
That's a proper thick thing to say.
Lost the argument immediately. That was a squash match to Tempest. So I liked the match. You know, it was a good match. Nothing all in about it though. I could have seen this on TV.
Me too.
And I think it's symptomatic of a uninspiring tag division.
100%.
So FTR and the Bucks, love that, but I saw that match last
year.
I love Anthony Bones' hot tags. Max Caster did some really good spots where he did the EVP trigger with Matt when Nick was taken out, and then he hit a shatter machine with Cash on Matt. So that was fun. It was fun spots. But in the end, Bucks tried to use the titles on Dax. They hit Dax, and then they hit the EVP trigger to retain.
Yeah, it was fine.
Okay, 12 minutes.
Yeah,
for a 3-way tag match.
And I was in need of the Casino Gauntlet at this point, and which thankfully came next.
Well, before that was the big angle. Not big angle. It was an angle, and hopefully this was the underlining of the last 4 months, I'd say, ever since Double or Nothing, when the Bucks won the belts, of just no tag division.
Yeah. I think there is a tag division. It's just they're all on Ring of Honor.
Yeah. There's no tag division on AEW. And it's the return, let's call it, of the grizzled young vets, Zach Gibson and...
James Gibson. James
Drake. And yeah, they came in, they stared down the Bucks walked away, and then they started attacking FTR. So a grizzled young vets versus FTR feud.
Yeah.
But it was the Acclaim that beat grizzled young vets in their debut match on Collision. So I just thought they were going to go after the Acclaim.
It's so funny because we were so focused, Casino Gauntlet's coming up next, we'll talk about it now. Michael Oku was not in the Casino Gauntlet. We've been so focused on Michael Oku because he was got the Dynamite Dark match. He'd been heavily rumored to be involved in AEW stuff. Apparently, they got big interest in him. On Friday, he dropped the Riot Cabaret World title. On Saturday, he dropped the British Heavyweight Championship in Rev Pro. So we were like, great, All In, he's there. Which meant that I did not even consider the Grizzled Young Veterans when they dropped the British tag titles to Sunshine Machine, that they might show up at All In. It never crossed my mind. And it was only when they showed up in the ring I was like, oh, that's why they dropped the tag belts. And also because Sunshine Machine, the story was for Sunshine Machine to win. But man, it was just like, it was so awesome seeing them in the ring. And it has made me interested in the tag division.
Yeah.
I'll see how long it lasts, but for this moment, I was back into the tag division.
So by this point, yeah, apart from the Toni Storm Mariah May match, it was so many multi-person matches. And I was just not really. It was fine, you know. I was enjoying it, but this last year, I loved it. So I was not. It's not like I was down on it. I was just like whelmed, not underwhelmed, not overwhelmed. I was whelmed by this point, and then the Casino Gauntlet happens, and I am just on my feet. It felt like for the next 2 hours.
You at one point turned to me and said, "I don't think we should sit down during this match."
Well, I don't know when they're going to do the count. So the Casino Gauntlet, if you're not aware, it is a Royal Rumble entrance style, although there are random intervals between when people come in.
Yeah, which is a Royal Rumble.
Yeah, but there's meant to be 90 seconds.
Well, yeah, and there's meant to be 90 seconds here. And it's just...
Have they ever said there's meant to be 90 seconds?
I think it just says intervals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's so offensively varied. I would like some clarification.
There was one of them that came so quickly after the last one.
Yes.
So I barely sat down, and then the counter came up again.
I think it was Kyle O'Reilly, and they're like, okay, Zack Sabre Jr. now. But it's people start off in a one-on-one match, and then it's a gauntlet. So people enter each time, and yeah, it's just a win by pinfall or submission. You don't eliminate people. So it's just incredibly exciting. Orange Cassidy's out first. We knew that was going to happen because he'd won a qualifying match. And we were like, well, who's going to be next? Is it going to be...
Ricochet. Which was my thought.
Yeah, I agree. And Okada came out. And yeah, that is the right decision.
It was the right decision. Although when the penny dropped, my first thought was, Shane?
Here comes the money!
But no, it was the Rainmaker. And it was like so awesome seeing Okada come out. And Okada and Cassidy squaring off. I was like... Oh, I'm so in for this already.
Yeah, so the match just started at 11. Everyone was already so into this. To an extent, they were not the rest of the card so far. And then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oasis plays, and Nigel McGuinness's name flashes up across the entire stage. I never even thought about him in the Gauntlet.
Me neither.
Because we were so fixated, oh, okay, he's not going to get the Danielson match. Guess he's not ever going to return to the ring. And he comes out, he looks great.
Looks awesome.
Sadly, he doesn't have the peroxide blonde spiky hair.
Because it's not 2010 anymore.
It is to me! And yeah, like, you know, if you go back and watch my 10 favourite wrestlers of all time, Nigel McGuinness, he's on there as Desmond Wolfe, which is, you know, his real name. But yeah, he's one of my favourite wrestlers of all time.
Yeah.
And I got into him, and within 2 years he retired. I was like, oh. And it was watching his matches with Bryan Danielson in Ring of Honor that I'd gone back to watch. And like those headbutt spots into the ring post, which is just disgusting to see. But at the time, it made me his biggest fan. But I only ever got 2 years.
Yeah.
And he had to retire from a mixture of bicep stuff was what stopped him passing the WWE medical, and maybe some concussion stuff.
I think it was concussion stuff.
Yeah, and not surprisingly. So to see him back, and I've always followed him from, you know, when he was in Ring of Honor as the commentator, then NXT, NXT UK, and now he's in AEW on Collision. He's so good at everything.
Yeah. And
to see him come out here, and he just got the biggest... This is the bit I've replayed most watching today.
The pop for Nigel was huge. Like, enormous. And it was well-deserved and well-earned. And so incredible. I didn't consider it. I did not consider him as a potential entrant for the All In, for the Gauntlet. And I lost my mind. I was jumping up and down. I was grabbing a hold of you, screaming for Nigel. Because, like, for me, like, Nigel, like, it's Ring of Honor, but it's also when he goes across to TNA and he starts that feud with Kurt Angle, and he has those series with Angle that are just
incredible.
Absolutely some of the best things you'll ever see. And then Hogan and Bischoff came in and buried him, and they just kept they used to do this thing where they had fan polls for who should be the number one contender to the world title, and Desmond Wolfe kept winning it, so they never did it. So when he kept winning it, they just stopped doing it because they didn't want to push Nigel McGuinness. They wanted to push Abyss, but Abyss never won the polls, so they just scrapped off the polls and just buried Nigel. So I've always had this thing of like, I want Nigel to have his moment, I want him to have his time, and it felt like he got his moment and his time here. And you made a point to me, you turned to me at one point when entry number 4 came in, you were like, this match has now become, it's this person and Nigel is in the ring.
Yeah. Because like, you're like, oh my God, it's Nigel McGuinness and Okada. This is my wildest dreams. And then I think number 4 was Kyle, which is cool, but I don't think I've ever dreamed about that.
No, but it's I was like, whoa, Kyle and Nigel, that's great.
I just don't want to undermine what my legit... I have legit dreamed.
Yeah.
I have legit been on buses, going to work, thinking, I wonder how, Nigel McGuinness would wrestle Zack Sabre Jr. And at number 5, Zack Sabre Jr.'s music hits. He comes out, he looks so cool like he always does.
Pop of the collar.
And he walks down, it's like British wrestling from the noughties. British wrestling from the 2010s and now. I'm watching Zack Sabre Jr. So I'm pretty sure if you go back to watch my favourite wrestlers ever video, because I do it in chronological order, Nigel McGuinness, Desmond Wolfe, is followed by Zack Sabre Jr., who I start watching on indie shows in 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
For me, they never crossed over. And I checked Cage Match. They've never been in the ring together.
This felt like a surreal moment. This felt like the past has met the present.
Yeah. It was... yeah. I just can't say enough good things about it. Then we got like Mark Briscoe and I think a few others, because then the number...
Roderick Strong might have been in there.
Roderick Strong.
Because when the Undisputed Kingdom thing came up, there was this like, Cole? And then I was like, nah, it's Roddy.
I think Hangman was then.
Oh, when Hangman came out, I didn't mean to do this. It just came out of me. I just went, oh no.
Oh no. I
was like, oh no.
He's so angry.
I was having so much fun watching this match and watching people came out. But when Hangman came down, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
He's going to ruin all of the fun because he's too angry at this.
Jeff Jarrett comes out as well.
And
then I think it's like number 10. It's Ricochet. Yay.
Yeah.
That feels like such a... Honestly, for me, Nigel McGuinness, Zack Sabre Jr., who's there like every other month anyway, and then it's Ricochet.
Yeah. He was like the third biggest pop of the match, really.
But Ricochet gets in.
I think that's because it's just been known for so long that he's coming in. Like, we've basically been waiting for this since June.
And then Christian is the surprise number 11 entrant, I think, because he had, of course, wrestled earlier in the night. I like I can sort out loads of kayfabe reasons for this. He's in cahoots with the Elite.
Sure.
He's lost the trios. He always wanted that path back to the world title. But he comes down, he's limping because he's selling the London Ladders match. And Ricochet just gets up on the top rope, flying dive outside, wipes him out.
Ricochet did look great in this. Like, he felt, it's Ricochet. But it didn't feel like WWE Ricochet. It felt like old Ricochet.
But that was perfect for Christian to get that immediate receipt. And I thought, oh, that's fun. Christian's going to be just a sort of, not comedy presence, but the heel who's finally getting his comeuppance.
Yeah.
And then, number 12, which was the last entrant, was Luchasaurus.
And I think it took a little while for everyone to pick up on that, because I grabbed you and I was like, oh, the Tron says Luchasaurus. And he's no longer Killswitch. He's back to being Luchasaurus. He storms down to the ring and I'm like, this is it. This is the moment. This is the turn. And he grabs Christian by the throat and he pushes him to one side and he grabs Kyle O'Reilly and he hits the chokeslam and he throws Christian on top of Kyle O'Reilly and Christian wins. And it genuinely took all of the wind out of my sails. Not because I didn't want to see Christian win. Not because I got worked. All the wind got took out of my sails because I went, again? We're doing this again? I feel like I've seen this angle 4 or 5 times now. I'm so ready for this to reach another chapter.
Yeah, it's like Wardlow and MJF. That took 2 years, I think, to pay off. And I think that was a year max. We're coming up, I think, when did Luchasaurus side with Christian? It was about now. We're coming up to about a year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it must be, because Jack Perry split off. So it was during the Jack Perry feud with Christian. It was Christian and Jack Perry were feuding. So that's like, is that all out last year?
But then the patriarchy side of things
I feel like that's like 2021.
No, that was last summer when Luchasaurus returned.
No, but when they did the Jack Christian match and one of them was injured and they couldn't do the match.
But I think Luchasaurus was renamed Killswitch.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the start of this bit, around October, November time.
But the Christian Luchasaurus partnership, I think, is nearing 2 years now.
Oh, wow. But I also don't like it because Christian won. While I think he's a fun character to hold because this is a Money in the Bank style title shot, is what they announced on Collision. Which, I also like that part of the Casino Gauntlet step at All In. But yeah, we kind of did this on last year's, was it Full Gear?
It was World's End.
World's End. When
he won the TNT title.
Luchasaurus won the Battle Royal for a shot at any time, and Killswitch beats Edge, and Christian is allowed to take the victory there. Mm-hmm. So I've seen that. Yeah.
I'm this proper. I did not like this. Like, genuinely, I did not like this, because this is lads, we've done this. I've seen this angle before, and you're making me actively not care about this. From a personal thing on me, I don't care about this storyline anymore.
But the show went right back up again because we got MJF versus Will Ospreay. Great entrances. Will was super over, and he got some kind of Assassin's Creed induction. So he's part of the guild now. Yeah,
I think it was done in conjunction with Ubisoft. Yeah, and the guy who does the Assassin's Creed voice was doing the narration for this. So it's a big deal. And Will, he's a massive nerd, so he's well into Assassin's Creed.
And MJF got a huge entrance as well. Loads of people waving American flags. Streamers popped down from the rig and then got stuck there for the rest of the night. That's why you can see what looks like a giant jellyfish tentacle thing dangling down. But this match was extraordinary.
This was insanely great. A true classic match, because they had the 58-minute match or the 59-minute match, whatever it was, on Dynamite. Easy dub. A few weeks back, which was insane how good that was. But here in Wembley Stadium with 50,000 people who all want to see Will win, was because Will is, he's something special. I think we can all say, because it's not just he's over in America, because I think that's the magic of Will, is that he is super over here, but that has translated to the US, because I think the US realizes just how great he is. But then when you come back here, it is he is this megastar. We did a live show at the Box Park before All In, and we did Survival Series, and Tempest brings me up on stage first and he said, what's your most anticipated match? So I answered honestly, which I said Swerve and Danielson, and the crowd went, hooray! And then I grabbed the microphone, I was like, actually no, it's Will Ospreay. And the place went mad. The place erupted for it and started doing Ospreay chants and doing Ospreay songs and everything, because he's on another level to everyone else. And that then just translates into the match as well, match itself. Plus, you had a cameo from Chuck Mambo. So,
yes.
5-star match.
The story of the match, of course, was hit the Tiger Driver, Will. That's the only way you can beat Max. So Will's going through all of these really impressive arsenal of finishers, which slowly over the time become signatures, which become strong grapple moves. So we're at a point now where I think we can say the Stormbreaker is a strong grapple up.
Yeah, it's like when The Rock stopped doing the rock bottom. It was just that's the setup move.
But he's doing hidden blades. I'm 9 hidden blades, os cutters on the apron, Stormbreakers. But he's got to hit the Tiger Driver. And it led to this really tense sequence on the apron for quite a long time, where they're both going for their Ospreay goes for the os cutter on the apron. Max, he's so tired, he just stumbles back.
Oh, so good.
MJF's ring awareness fatigue cells are so good.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of cowardly, but it's also begrudgingly smart.
Yeah.
And MJF uses that as an opportunity to go up to the second turnbuckle and hit the Panama Sunrise on the ring apron.
Oh.
Which looked great. They go to the other apron, and Will finally hits the os cutter on the apron. He's going to go for the hidden blade off the apron onto Max down on the ground. But Max ducks, and Will kills a cameraman.
Who had the jazziest socks and the jazziest pants you ever did see. And a lot of people were like, those are some jazzy pants right there. Those are some jazzy socks.
Camera guy trying to get himself
over. Yeah, trying to get himself. What is he? Referee Slick Johnson. And then later on, we were on the train and someone was like, oh yeah, it was Chuck Mambo.
Yeah, Sunshine Machine's own Chuck Mambo.
And Mambo retweeted the image of someone screen crowded being like, man, those are some incredibly big pants that he's got there. So colourful pants and colourful socks. And Chuck Mambo's retweeted like, looks very handsome as well.
I like a spot when a camera guy gets taken out.
It's great, right?
Taker at Mania.
Yeah, well, that guy missed him.
And in the Bad Blood Hell in a Cell.
Yeah. I honestly, I thought this match was so great because MJF, I'm on record saying this. I'm on the show saying this. I did not think this was going to work. I really did not think this international title, this AEW American Championship thing, was going to work as well as MJF thought it was going to. Because I was like, I just don't think people will care enough about booing the US and cheering the UK. We're just not that patriotic of a country.
We are. You're not.
No, it's not that I'm not. I just don't think we are. There are people who are very patriotic, but they're also the EDL ones.
No, but the Box Park, all those chants for Ospreay,
that's
because he's our boy.
But it's less than that. I'm more about booing America because I'm coming out waving an American.
Canada because Martha Hart said it.
Which is why I misunderstood. I think I did misunderstand this. That's what I'm saying. I misunderstood this. But also I think as well, I just didn't think we were going to boo somebody coming over with an America gimmick being like, hey, you've all got crooked yellow teeth and you drink tea and F your queen and all this stuff. Because it's like, it's so played out and it just doesn't, I just don't think it gets as much reaction anymore. I didn't think it was going to work until we did the Rev Pro show 2 weeks ago and he came out to nuclear heat and I was like, oh no, this does work because it's MJF doing it. And MJF is so good at this, and it was beautiful to see it played out at Wembley. I was very wrong.
I stick by my American criticism, but I think that isn't the story of the match. That's what I think the genius is. The story of the match is that's a mask for MJF's true emotions, which is down to people like you more than they like me.
You're Buzz Lightyear, and I'm Woody.
Which is my emotional hook into this match. Mm-hmm. So at the end, there is a ref bump because Will is just killing anyone on an AEW paycheck, and he goes for the Tiger Driver, but MJF hits the low blow, and he's going to use the diamond ring, but Max is stopped by a masked man. Who could it be? I thought it was going to be Adam Cole again.
I did too.
Two people I thought Adam Cole were, but it was Daniel Garcia when he removed the balaclava. I was like, well, he's re-signed then. Apparently he hasn't.
No, yeah, PW Insider said that his contract runs out in October. He has not re-signed as of yet, but they are confident that he's going to run. From what a few people have said, I think Ebo of WrestlePure said this, like, Tony doesn't do this unless he knows that he's pretty confident, because he didn't book the Lucha Bros, but he was pretty confident that he could re-sign Daniel Garcia, so he's booked him in this position because he's fairly confident that he's going to stick around.
So that is enough for Will to hit the hidden blade on a shocked Max at Daniel Garcia's return, and he hits the Tiger Driver in just a beautifully milked setup.
In the way Will can, right?
But also just because it's been such a big part of the story, it's one arm, it's the other arm. This is going to be a huge cathartic moment. He's looking into the camera and he's weirdly smiling. Tiger Driver. Yeah,
and he does the move, gets through, and Max sells this move, not by doing any big like overset or anything like that. He hits the deck and he doesn't move, and so Will pins him for quite a while because the referee has to get back into the ring to count the 3. And then I only noticed because we were there live for it. He's just in the ring and he has not moved.
He Thanos'd away in the end.
Yeah.
They didn't move him, he just faded.
Yeah, like that is putting over the move and capping off this storyline. I was listening to a podcast last week it's a WWE fan podcast, and every now and again they will just take their little digs at AEW because one of them in particular doesn't like anything outside of WWE, hates anything, doesn't watch it, but doesn't like anything that's outside of WWE.
You can say it was Dan on Smack Collision.
It was not Dan on Smack Collision. He is a good person. And he said, the thing is, like, what WWE realized is they're making moves matter. And that's what they're not doing in AEW. They're not making any of the moves matter. They're just doing moves and kicking out. And I'm like, mate, one of the biggest stories in AEW right now is based around a move.
It's a very bad faith take. Christopher Daniels came down after that and handed Ospreay the international title. So that has been returned.
Yeah.
No more American title.
And at this point, I was like, I'm going to go for my Wii now. Well, actually, I watched the entrances and then I went for my Wii.
Mercedes Moné then took on Britt Baker, and the atmosphere was flat. Even though Mercedes had a Really cool entrance with the haunted carriage. It was actually gold when they put the lights on it. She had some corgis in there.
Yeah.
And it was that she was like the queen of AEW. And yeah, it was Britt Baker, Monet. So I also went to the toilet at the start of this and got another drink. I came back for the second half, but I've watched it on the TV feed, the pay-per-view feed. Yeah, felt like something was off.
Really did.
Beyond the deflated crowd reaction.
Absolutely. I don't think the crowd reaction helped, but I don't think the match was good without that. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, even if the crowd were hot, something felt off in this match. And like, when the Will match ended and they did the angle where he was handed the international title, honestly, you just watched this sea of people all get up to go to the concession stand, go to the bar, go to the toilets, because they saw Will. They saw Will win the title, and they all just like, poof, as a huge wave of people went. And it was funny, I said I think I said this to you, I certainly said it to Dan Layton. In the second half of the match, the crowd do feel like they pick up a little bit. And that's because they got back to their seats. They got back to their seats to see the wrestling. But it was like, I'm looking at it, 17 minutes this match went.
That's too long.
And not enough happened in it to warrant it going 17 minutes.
The finish was Camille, I can't remember if she actually interfered, but Britt Baker got the chair and chucked it to Camille.
It was the
Eddie Guerrero.
It was the NJPW Women's Strong Championship, because Monet was trying to use the TBS title, and then Camille tried to get the New Japan one. Baker gets it out of her hands, throws it back to her, does the Eddie Guerrero spots, and
Camille was ejected from ringside, and that led to Baker getting in the lockjaw. Like, oh, okay, the manager has been sent to the back. And then Monet reverses it, hits the gory special, and wins. So Britt Baker, I don't think any cheating ever actually happened. Camille was sent to the back, and Monet beats Baker clean after all of this.
Yeah, not a good sign. Really not. That's what I took from it.
You know, like, if you whatever happened with the backstage thing, one thing we can say is, she was suspended.
And no one else was.
She was suspended in what was a hot program, and a couple of weeks after the suspension, she gets beaten like this. If this was in any other company at any other time, we'd go,
burial.
That's a punishment because you had personnel issues backstage.
100%.
I'm not saying that's what it is, but that's the way it played out.
That's exactly it. I don't think anyone can really say it unless a report comes out to say that's what it was, but it's what it felt like. Because this didn't feel like it was a big showing for Baker. And as I said, something in the match felt off, and people weren't into this live.
And maybe it's not even like a burial thing. Maybe it's just, so Baker got suspended because of this, and, you know, whatever the hater thing's going on with. Maybe Baker isn't the right person to push as part of this new look women's division. Maybe we should focus on Hater and Monet and Willow Nightingale.
Yeah.
Then we got Jack Pery versus Darby Allin, which the crowd were also a bit, not dead, but they were tired. They just wanted the main event now. It was a long, long night, and there have been a lot of matches with a lot of wrestlers in. But they played this really smartly because it went 10 minutes.
Yep.
It was mostly hardcore spots.
Oh, yeah.
A good 2 minutes of it was taken up with Jack Pery emptying a bag full of real glass shards over the ring, and he just stood there for 2 minutes, soaking in Crimea River chants.
I think it's a real testament to Jack Pery and getting this scapegoat gimmick over, because there's every chance that could have got CM Punk chance.
It did get CM Punk chance, but it was
it was like, you know, looking at the area that we were in, it was 4 people doing CM Punk chants and 5,000 people chanting Crimea River. Yeah, like that was the ratio of it.
I was chanting CM Punk. And he just got mega heat. He tapes up Darby's wrists with lots of not masking tape, but just tape. He puts him in a body bag, and he puts him in the coffin. I'm like, okay, so how's Darby going to get out of this? And he zips up, so his head pops out, and he sits up. And Jack Pery just hits a running knee on him, closes the coffin.
And he wins.
That was a dominant victory by Pery.
10-minute match, a proper sprint of a match.
And then afterwards, the Bucks come down. They have lighter fluid. Jack Pery's got a lighter. They're dousing in the coffin with the lighter fluid. All the lights cut out. It stinks.
Yeah, Metallica's Seek and Destroy plays. Tony, did you not learn anything from last year? It was a cover band that did it last time. You don't need to pay Metallica for the rights. It's cheaper to do it the other way around. But he came out and it was awesome. So I've got my timings wrong on this. I didn't use my toilet break for the Britt and Mercedes match. I stayed in my seat for that, so I saw the whole thing. But when this match finished, I was like, I'm going to do it now before the main event because I want to be here for all of that. So I got up out of my seat and I walked up the stairs of the concourse, walked up to the top, and then, because obviously the big screen was there, I saw the Young Bucks come down, and I was like, all right, so Sting's coming out next then. So I stopped and I turned around and I could just watch Sting do his entrance and do his thing. And God, it was awesome. It was always great. So cool. And this is the best use of Sting now. Is making him this special surprise attraction.
Really fun match. Really put over Jack Perry strong. Don't quite know what it does for Darby, considering he'll have the Arthur Ashe Stadium title shot against Danielson. Or I think that's when it is.
He's got the shot at Arthur Ashe, yeah.
But yeah, overall, just a historic, memorable, all-time great night after a fantastic weekend. I gave it 90%, I think, but the Danielson match and the McGuinness return are 101%. I broke my own scale.
I loved this show. I had such a good time at this show. For even the bits when I was a bit down, those are the bits I won't remember. I'll remember the highest of the highs, because when they were at their highest, man, it was next level. It was out of body type stuff. I absolutely loved this show. I don't know how strongly I feel about this argument, but I think there could be an argument to made of the idea of a pay-per-view is to build your anticipation for a main event, so the opening matches not being that hot. I'm thinking about you because you said you weren't really into it until the second half. Some pay-per-views feel like they're designed to be that way. I don't know if that's a strong argument, but it's only one that people could make.
I just won't have nearly as many matches.
Well, that's it, because the WWE way of doing it now is just do 5 matches with half an hour of commercials in between each one. So it's a way to just we can just do 5 bangers. We don't have to build anything because we've only got 5 matches to do, so all 5 of them can just be 5-star matches.
Or just do 6 or 7 without the ad breaks.
Yeah. Well, but then where are you going to get the money from?
But for the AEW...
Where did Doritos get their commercialization from then?
Let's go into our remaining Omega chats.
Absolutely, yeah. WrestleTalk.com/support. Ding, ding, ding. This is your last call for the Ultra Chats. G here said, having never watched AEW programming in full, I am watching All In to get a feel for it, as one might with Mania for WWE. In the middle of the Casino Gauntlet match, trying to make sense of it all, but this has been fun thus far.
Oh, good. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of it. You got the best stuff yet to come.
The Higgs said, I was right up at the top of the same section as you guys. 113. Spotted the whole WrestleTalk team rushing off for a comfort break to avoid Jericho saying, yeah, we all left, didn't we? Every single one of us got out of our seats to go. Could have done with the screen above the ring on our side. Highlight the show with Stokely Spinebuster. Mike said, my first All In, I thought it was a mixed bag. World, women's and international matches were undoubtedly fantastic, but the TBS, TNT and FCW matches were not. Gauntlet match was fun until an abysmal finish. The My GM drama curve needs finessing. So I don't think it was an abysmal finish, because I think it's a very good finish, but a lot of people point out there, it was All Out 2022 that Christian Cage and Luchasaurus became an act, as a heel act, and they have been teasing the breakup ever since then. So, much like the Judgment Day, I'm ready for you to just pull the trigger now. Homerstar here said, another amazing night. My bro who isn't into wrestling took me and he loved the show, most notably Will Ospreay vs MJF and Bryan Danielson vs Swerve, although he was confused when he explained why the British Mariah May was getting booed. Sats Vault said, work prevents me from watching this live nowadays, but F me, what an incredible show. Sure, some fine-tuning is needed, but production has stepped up big time since 2023. Less hectic pacing, tons of surprises, amazing matches, great ending. Happy you were there. Mary Plainsville Dan said, hello Luke, hello Ollie. Messaging while sitting near Big Ben. It's a beautiful sunny day here in London. Hope you're doing well. It was so awesome meeting everyone. To everyone I missed, see you next time. I'm glad 50,000 people came to see Dustin Rhodes get a pinfall. Edit Ron here said, wow, what an insane show. Will's entrance alone, as someone who loved Assassin's Creed as a kid, made me extremely emotional. I loved almost every match on the card, and the crowd atmosphere just made it an all-timer for me. What a time to love pro wrestling. The real Double J said, I got FOMO and traveled down on the day from Devon. Great vibes and met lovely people, but there was unhappiness on the pitch facing the ring and around the ramp as no screens to make up for the lack of visibility. Yeah. So I'm paying 400 quid a ticket. I'm hoping AEW take the feedback. Me too, because that is a lot of money. Space Viking here said, I'm gonna say it. I don't think DMD has been the same since she beat TR in that one pay-per-view before dropping the title. Thunder Rosa. And before she beat Thunder Rosa in that one pay-per-view before dropping the title on free TV a week or two later. Obviously, there's injuries and possible backstage drama in between, but something has felt off. Julio said, went 7 for 10 on picks, but the show was amazing. And by the end, I was so happy to see Danielson win. But the Jack Perry versus Darby Allin kind of disappointed, in my opinion. After then, that was a great show. And I live in Texas, so I'm definitely going to All In next year.
Oh, I don't know what there was to disappoint about the Pery Allin. I guess it wasn't much of a competitive match.
Cameron P1 here said, I had to watch this at work and I'm getting such weird looks when I lost my mind several times at the pay-per-view. Remarkable show, and I'm so excited for Australia next year. Here's hoping for cameos from Slex or Adam Brooks at the show. So yeah, they announced that officially it's the February show, doing a pay-per-view in Australia. I can't actually remember which one got the location in the end. It might have been Brisbane, I think. But yeah, that's huge. Like,
Take that, Elimination Chamber Perth.
Well, yeah, we're actually chatting to an Australian. We met Ten Ruzza, who
lovely guy,
such a nice guy, tall guy as well. He's massive, but he was like, I don't know why they ran it in Perth. There's nothing there. No one goes to Perth. They wondered why they couldn't sell hours because no one goes to Perth because there's no reason to ever go there.
Oh, the reason they went to Perth is because Perth paid them. It wasn't for fans.
That's what I said. Shellhard said, "Hi guys, All In was one of the shows I've ever seen." I wonder if that's meant to be one of the best shows I've ever seen, as opposed to it's just one of the shows I've seen. The main event was the best match I've seen, and MJF and Will was very good. And I felt let down by the Casino Gauntlet by the finish. Would rather have Zack won it.
Yeah, I'd love Zack, because then he can cash in on Danielson. There's the rubber match waiting there.
Demon Arc here said, for me, Ospreay was the best on the night, and now I know in my bones he's going to main event AEW's next UK show. He is the ace and future anchor of AEW. CK said, hey lads, so happy you had a great time. I had a ticket but couldn't make it due to illness, but I honestly don't mind because that was a near perfect show to watch at home. That Gauntlet match was brilliant, not the end. Hater Garcia, Nigel, oh my, so exciting. Jake here said, the stretch in the main event where a beaten and bloody Danielson is on his knees, looking at his family and saying, I'm sorry, before taking a third house call and taking the kicks from Swerve and screaming how much he loves his family is one of the most emotional moments in a match that I can remember. Give me that match, all of the stars. This was such an amazing show, and I wish I could have made the trip over to witness it live. I wonder if this show and the buzz around it could actually help All In 2026.
Yeah. Well, that's too long away, I don't think.
Yeah. Or
that momentum will carry.
Maybe. VGC Legend said, I was there on SmackDown Live in St. Louis when Daniel Bryan beat AJ Styles for the WWE Championship. I can remember how amazing it was to see him win the belt. I can only imagine it was even more amazing seeing him win the AEW World title yesterday.
It was, because WrestleMania 30 is an overrated show.
No Sidious here said, the lack of screen was a real problem in places. I enjoyed some of the matches drastically more in the rewatch. I think I probably will do as well.
Yeah.
Revy here said, the first pay-per-view I bought was All In last year, and I was so saddened by the controversy coming out of it, but this show helped me erase all of that from my mind. Seeing Bryan Danielson winning here, and after a hard-fought match with Swerve, miracle in Wembley. Misha says, my main screen complaint was that the Jumbotron above the entranceway that I used from my position in the 500 had some lights underneath it, which made it hard to see. But that's the venue. The wrestling, amazing. Such a weekend, such an atmosphere. Tired now.
There was a lot of chants of turn the lights off from that area.
Matt Clark here said, I wonder if that's actually just so they could see the screen as opposed to seeing the ring. Matt here said, when Sting came out, I lost my mind. He's my favorite wrestler of all time, and I never thought I'd get to see him again. Demon Arc said, me again. As a huge Assassin's Creed fan, Ospreay had to be giggling like a schoolgirl hearing Ezio? I haven't played the game. VA during the entrance. I know this because I was doing the same thing. I love AC. Jimmy Yang's Wang said, goodness gracious, what a card, eh? Highlight of the night for me was Big Nige keeping up with some of the best technicians of the modern day. I cried here at effing in the bushes ring out. Yeah. Might as well say, Luke, that you've got another great shirt on today, representing the Cutthroat Collective. So I loved this weekend.
Yeah.
I had such a good time. I loved Riot, and I loved Rev Pro, and I loved All In. So I've had such a wonderful time. But Rev Pro, and actually yesterday as well, it's been a while since I'm like, I need to buy merchandise. I want to buy wrestlers merchandise. And it was at that Rev Pro show, and it was after the 10-woman tag of Cutthroat Collective versus Team Rev Pro. I was like, I've got to buy some. Yeah. I really want to buy some Cutthroat Collective merch because I love that match so much. And I went up and I was queuing for the toilet, and the guy doing the merch stall saw me eyeing up the t-shirt, and he went, "You know you want it." I was like, "Yeah, I do actually." He was like, I said, "How much is it?" And he went, "It's 30 quid. And I was like, "That's a lot of money for a t-shirt." It's a cost of living crisis, mate. But I went back and I got the t-shirt. I had to. Weasley here said, "I'm so tired of the will he, won't he with Luchasaurus and Christian. We've been doing this for almost a year and it's been tiring for the last 10 months. Either finally break free or do something or be Christian's goon for the rest of your run." That's for me as well. I think Tempo made this point. If you're going to do this angle, do it on the big show. Why not do it at All In? What a great time to do that angle. I don't know why they just keep... Just pull the trigger, man. Harriet said, "Hey guys, I truly enjoyed this pay-per-view, in particular the Casino Gauntlet and the main event, which was very, very emotional. A really great day and fantastic to see you all again." Anonymous said, "I've never been that big fan of Danielson. When I attended Ring of Honor shows 20 years ago, he was kind of a lowlight for me. I wasn't watching All In 2014, and I missed the Yes movement, but gentlemen, when Danielson kicked out of 3 house calls, I cried." That's the magic of Bryan Danielson.
He can get you.
Ben here said, "Hey guys, Laurie did great work on his original on Bray Wyatt. As a mega fan of Bray and his work, the 1-year anniversary of his death hit me really hard. It was a rough day, but the video almost healed me and helped me remember, and that legacy lives on."
That's nice. Yeah, everybody please do go over and watch, on this channel, Laurie's video essay on Bray Wyatt and his legacy.
Stephen here said, "Hey guys, Ollie, we met you yesterday and my daughter gave you the bracelet she made for the show."
Oh, there they are. Yeah, I haven't got mine on right now, but it's over there. I wore it in the news video today.
So yeah, you could tell the story because I wasn't there for this.
Yeah, I was just getting one of my many pints, and a chap spoke to me and said, "Oh, my daughter had made you all friendship bracelets, but she was a bit too scared to come up and say hi." I was like, "Go get her." So he went and got her, and yeah, she gave us these lovely friendship bracelets.
This is very cool.
Which is a Taylor Swift thing, I think.
Yeah.
But with AEW things on. And then the guy told me how much he likes Sparks, and I ignored the girl and we talked about Sparks.
Hope you like them. You went out of your way to make a moment for us and you were so gracious. You never know how much you did to help people like us during the pandemic, and I want to let you guys know that the work and content you do across your channels is special, and thank you so much. We had a ball yesterday and we did notice that you had your when you had your piss breaks like us during the Jericho Hook Mercedes Britt. Both good calls.
It's weird that people are noting my piss breaks.
Ryan with the Mohawk said, "Thanks for taking the time to say hello and chat with me for a while, Luke, Ollie, and Pete. It was a genuine pleasure to meet you all and the man that was just hanging around Pete. It's a pity that Tempest never said hi. Poor form from him."
Oh, well, he said hi to everyone else.
There's a bit of a winky face in there as well, so maybe there's a bit of a cheeky acknowledgement within there. "Made my weekend. Jam that jam." VGC said, "I was watching the All In media scrum to see which of my predictions I got right, which would have got 15 points with getting the FTW trios and gauntlet matches wrong, only to find out that I forgot to save my picks before the pay-per-view started. Always press save, folks." Hiko here, this is actually from our show we did with Brian and Dave, said, "With high US pay-per-view prices, I would love to see an AEW Peacock style. The $9.99 original network was a huge reason I got back into wrestling at the tail end of 2015. How much did streaming contribute to the growth of the industry in the last decade?" That's a really interesting point, actually.
I don't think streaming has much contributed to growth for single service platforms. But platforms like Netflix, which buy loads of content and can expose you outside of your bubble. Because people, if you're signing up to a service like WWE Network, you're already a wrestling fan and a fan of WWE.
Yeah.
But if you're on a Peacock or a Netflix, you might just stroll past it. "Oh, I'll try that out because it's on here." And that's how you can become a sort of growing subscriber base.
The guy who did my tattoo said to me, I was asking what we're doing in the chat, and I was like, I do pro wrestling stuff, because he actually thought he'd met before, because he was like, "I really recognize you." And I was like, "If you've been on YouTube, you might have seen me on a thumbnail." And but he said, "I haven't watched wrestling since The Undertaker, DX, The Rock, the usual list that people reel off." And then he said, "But I hear it's going to Netflix. Is that right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Be honest, when it's on Netflix, I'll probably watch it because I've already got a Netflix account, so I'll probably get back into it through that." David here said, afternoon, gents. Glad to hear you both had a good time at All In. I watched it through the medium of Stephen Larson's live reactions. On the subject of the venue for Forbidden Door next year, my prediction is that it will be at Craven Cottage. So, we were having a chat about this. Problem is, it's football season.
Football.
So, the football season will probably take precedence over that. So, there's no guarantee that they will be able to have Craven Cottage on that weekend. So, it could be, like, if the reason they've not announced it is because they're waiting until next year's football timetable is revealed, and then they can find out whether or not they can use Craven Cottage. But yeah, I don't know. It's not like it doesn't feel like it's as easy as a guarantee as one might think. Nowhere here said, Nigel's return means so much to me. One of my favorite wrestlers when I first started watching Ring of Honor. I was completely devastated when he had to retire, and watching the last of Nigel McGuinness, you could see how crushing it was for him. I cried. He deserves this. Kuzu here said, 9 out of 10 show. Even despite the low points, the show over-delivered. The entire show justifies AEW's existence and why having 2 top promotions is healthy for the business. Long live AEW, and Danielson is forever the GOAT. Horse Rocket Guy said, it was great meeting you guys at the Box Park and sitting the next row over from you at the show. Genuinely made my day and my weekend 10 times better. Thanks from the incredibly Horse Rocket Guy. Please tell Dan my daughter fully marked out at the picture with him. Oh, nice. Here's the guy that approaches afterwards. Yeah, the really croaky voice, like, I've got to do interviews tomorrow for rockets. For people who are going to come and work for me to build rocket ships. I've literally got to interview rocket scientists. And you looked at him and said, that's not brain surgery. Which is a very good joke. EJ here said, hi guys, it was nice to meet you, a few of you at the box part, and unlucky in your survival series match, Ollie. You need to stop choking.
Well, no, I like I said, I didn't want to be up there, so I threw it.
It's the most nervous I've ever seen you before doing a live show.
I've been more nervous.
You reckon?
Oh my god, so much more nervous ahead of the dance thing we had to do.
Oh, I suppose, yeah. I don't know. You just felt like really nervy. I suppose I haven't seen you that nervy in a while. Then, I was nervous.
I tried to avoid live event performing for a reason.
EJ continues, thanks for mentioning the missing screen. Hope you all had a really good night. Can't get over the main event. I can't get it out of my head. And lastly, I believe for now, Kevin just says, I effing love pro wrestling. Beautiful way.
Great weekend.
Have an end of the poll and see what you thought of this show. 90% thumbs up.
Way.
Incomplete.
Oh, that was bang on.
Bang on what Ollie Davis thought as well, with mid being 7%. So very much a thumbs up show from our audience here. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this sort of podcast content and you haven't seen us do this before, we do this over on the WrestleTalk podcast channel. So there's links to that in the video description down below. Tomorrow we'll be doing the Raw podcast. Myself and Dan Layton will be here in studio reviewing Raw, and then we'll be back on Thursday with the Dynamite review, which has Ricochet's TV debut match against Carl Fletcher.
And also on this channel on WrestleTalk, there is the podcast, the exclusive podcast review, well, it was Patreon exclusive podcast review of Royal Rumble 2014. It's part 1 of 7 of our Breakup of the Shield series, which is all on Patreon right now for you to watch. But we put up that episode as a free taster. It's like 3-4 hours long, so go and watch that as well to see if you like that sort of stuff, because then you can get much more of it by supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. But for now, we're going to rest our voices.
Oh, yeah.
And go to sleep.
Yeah. From 2 very tired boys, I've been Luco and DAD, and that's been Ollie Davis. Jam that jam.